Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me on this edition of the Light the W podcast. It is your favorite Seattle Mariners podcast where we cover all things Mariners baseball. If this is your first time joining us on the show or you're a returner, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube, or you can find us at Light the W, a Seattle Mariners podcast. Or if you want to listen to the audio version, go to Spotify or your preferred podcast platform, where I would love it if you could leave a 5-star review and follow on those platforms. It supports the show and the channel greatly, and it's greatly appreciated. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at LightTheWPod. And finally, without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
The pitch from Acevedo.
Swung on the line, down the left field line for a base hit.
Fly ball, gap, right center field. And
Double him up at second.
Luke is going back to the 1-8 track. Get out the right, run and Mustard grandma. It is grand salami time.
Polanco sends it into right, and will send Seattle to the American League Championship Series for the first time in 24 years.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to 107. That is episode 107 of the Light the W podcast. Your host for today's episode is Mahal, as always. New mic, almost a new year, and today is the first annual Light the W Mariners Award Show. It's the 2025 edition of the award show. Let's see, how many do we have to talk about today? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 awards to talk about. We will issue my biggest question heading into the new year, and we will also have a starting rotation of my favorite moments. So, sound the horn and let's get into this. Okay, so the way we are going to do today's awards show is starting with what I think is not least important, but maybe less impactful awards. We're going to start with some of the less impactful awards. And of those, how many did I say that we had? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 awards. Let me just note this down. 12 awards. Of the 12 awards, each award will have 3 nominees. We will have a winner in each award. We'll then go into the starting rotation, and we will close with that final note, which is the biggest question that I will leave you fans with heading into the 2026 season. And really, it's a 2-part question, but we're going to start with the awards. And the first award I would like to talk about is the biggest surprise in Mariners baseball for 2025, the biggest and best surprise. So we're not talking about someone that was a major disappointment. Not that we had anyone really that was like that this year, unless you want to talk about some of those starting pitchers that got hurt, and we'll get into that maybe with this next award. But the first award is biggest surprise. Nominees are, as you can suspect, Cal Raleigh is going to be named a lot on here, but Cal Raleigh, 60 home runs, 65 including the postseason, switch hitting catcher, second place in MVP voting, nearly won MVP. He had the best season home run wise the catcher has ever had, a switch hitter's ever had, a Mariner's ever had, putting up historic numbers. Second nominee is Jorge Polanco, who really bounced back from what was, I don't want to say a poor 2024 season, but it was not the Jorge Polanco you are expected to see. If you want to particularly just look at WRC plus, 2024 for Jorge Polanco, he was below average. WRC plus, if you don't know, averages to 100. Jorge Polanco had a 93 WRC plus in 2024 after being traded to the Mariners from the Twins. Mariners then declined his $12 million option. He becomes a free agent. And all of a sudden, This guy's a free agent as spring training's beginning. Mariners pick him back up on a cheap deal that's incentives based, and he posts the best year of his career. A 132 WRC plus, hit 26 home runs, struck out just 15.5% of the time, hit 265, 326, 495, posting 2.5 wins while DHing majority of the time. 88 games at DH, 38 at second, 5 at third, and he even played an inning at first base. Jorge Polanco putting up unbelievable numbers after having what was a real disappointment and probably would have won biggest disappointment award in 2024. He bounces back, does everything he needs to do, and posts a great season. The last guy is Dominic Canzone. Dom Canzone did not really do much in his years leading up to 2025. And even going into 2025, this was a guy that wasn't on the radar, really, of the Mariners, especially in spring training. That said, he comes up in the middle of the season, his first game, first at bat, I believe, hits a walk-off home run in Arizona. And it was only up from there to go, really. 82 games this year. Dom Canzone hit 300, 358, 481 with a 141 WRC plus and put up a win and a half in those 82 games. If you average that out to an entire season, that's about a 3-win player, if not a 3-win player. Hit 11 home runs, did everything he needed to do. Cut down on that strikeout rate from 28.2% in 2024 to 22%. Now, small sample sizes in his previous years, but a good cut down there, keeping that walk rate almost at 7.5%, doing everything really that you could have that you could have dreamed of and more. We'll see what he does in 2026. But for 2025, it was a surprise, to say the least, what Dom Canzone did. Now, the winner of the biggest surprise in Mariners baseball, a 2025 award, in my opinion, has to go to Jorge Polanco. I think Dominic Canzone and Cal Raleigh both have put up great fights. Cal Raleigh, the thing for me is he was already a great player. If you want to look at what he did in the years prior to 2025, Cal Raleigh was already maybe arguably the best catcher in baseball, hitting 34 home runs in 2024, 30 in 2023. He was a 5.5 win player in 2024. That said, did anyone expect 9 wins from him? No. I already laid out why Jorge Polanco, I think, really is the biggest surprise and why what he did was remarkable. But Dom Canzone, to me, just didn't play enough games. If you tell me that Dom Canzone plays over 100 games, I think he might get this award. But Polanco's impact and just expecting it out of nowhere, signing him so late in the offseason, to me, Polanco gets his first award of this episode. We'll move into one that I sort of teed up a little bit earlier, but the biggest disappointment award. I got 3 guys here. First is Donovan Solano, free agent addition that was meant to play first base, maybe even a little bit of second base for the Mariners, and DH some. This is a guy that I mentioned it when he signed. 280, 350 in terms of average, and then on base. That's what he'd done for the most part of his career. And it's pretty safe to say that Donovan Solano did not do that in Seattle. He was poor, in fact, in Seattle. If you want to go look at what he did in Seattle, he hit 252, 295, 344, and 85 WRC plus. Wasn't worth positive nor negative WAR. Hit 3 home runs, had 21 RBIs, and in fact was just not a very good player, playing in 69, that's a great number, in games. Struck out 21% of the time, just over, in fact, 21.5% of the time. Not a good season from him. Audier Garver is my second nominee. Now, this one is a little bit of a joke, of course, but Mitch Garver, you wanted a bounce-back season from him, and you didn't get him. You wanted him to be in the fighting sort of race for that biggest surprise role. But, he didn't bounce back. Was he better than he was in 2025? Yeah, he sure damn was. But he still wasn't that great of a player, posting just an 86 WRC plus, wasn't worth positive WAR when you're looking at fan graphs. Hit just 9 home runs, hit 209, 297, 343. His value came against lefties, where he was slightly above average. But if you would have told me before the season that he was a 107 WRC plus versus lefties, a 63 against righties, and overall just an 80, what did I say, 86, I would have been slightly disappointed. In fact, fairly disappointed, especially because, you look at what Jorge Polanco did, that's bouncing back to better than what he'd done most part of his career. You just wanted Garver to be somewhat close to what he's done for the most part of his career. You look at the year before he came to Seattle, that 2023 season, he was a 142 WRC plus. The year before that, he was a 100 and a 139 the year before that. We just wanted Garver to be 105, 110, and he would have been a fairly solid bounce back, piece candidate for that award, that role. But he didn't do that, and it was a pretty big disappointment. Third guy I have is Bryce Miller. Now, this one I think could have gone to any of 2 or 3 guys. Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, George Kirby, all could have sort of fallen into this piece. I chose Bryce Miller because what he did in his season in 2024 was really, really good. And you thought, yeah, he's going to grow on that. If you want to just look at ERA, and ERA is not the best stat, but an ERA under 3, his FIP 3.5. This is 2024. Home runs per 9 just barely over 1. Kept his walks per 9 at 2.25. Ks per 9 over 8.5. Had 31 starts, 180 innings. Went 12-8. A whip under 1. This is a really damn good pitcher. And he just didn't replicate it. He dealt with some injury, elbow types, bone spurs type of stuff that, we all know about. But nonetheless, it was a disappointment from Bryce, where he posted an ERA over 5.5. Bounced back in the postseason to be better, but an ERA of almost 6 is just not going to cut it at the major league level. And for the most part, it felt like he just needed to be shut down. Now, he was never shut down, but going from an ERA under 3 and a whip under 1 to an ERA of almost 6 and a whip of almost 1.5, just not going to cut it. And that's a disappointment, to say the least. All this said, I do think Donovan Solano, for me, gets this award. I do think this one is up for debate, as was the last one, and they all are. But Donovan Solano, to me, gets this vote. And it's not because of necessarily expectations that I had placed on him, but it's because he's been just a solid player for the most part of his career, and he was DFA worthy, and he got DFA'd. The other 2 guys, played on the team throughout the entire season. Bryce Miller had his bounce back in the postseason and showed up in the ALCS and was a big reason the Mariners made it to Game 7. So for me, he's not even in the running. Mitch Garver, also not really to me. Like you wanted Ardir Garver, you wanted him to bounce back, but that was more of a hope rather than it's like, I expect this guy to do this. I expected Donovan Solano to hit 280 with a 350 on base percentage. I expected that. I expected him to get some RBIs, to be a piece of the Mariners lineup that they didn't really have. Did I expect him to be a top of the order bat? No. But I expected him to be, startable in the 7, 8, 9 spots. And he wasn't even that. For a team that wants to compete, he was bad. And to me, that's why he gets biggest disappointment. Third award. There's no nominees for this one. It's the first time Mariner award. There weren't too many guys that had their first, taste of Mariners baseball. For the most part, it was rookies, and we have a different award for that. But first time Mariner, I think, has to go to Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor was amazing. Obviously, he gets the big contract after the Mariners trade for him at the deadline. When there's trades that you remember exactly where you were when it happened and when you found out. There are moments as sports fans in trades where you remember those things, where you were, what you were doing. And to me, the Josh Naylor trade is one of those moments. I was out on a boat, New York Harbor, looking at the Statue of Liberty. I get back to my hotel room, my phone's dead, and bang. Josh Naylor is a Mariner. They've traded for him. They get their first baseman, Donovan Solano, out the door, and Josh Naylor's in here. And my expectations were for him to be good, but he made himself my favorite Mariner currently on the team. Maybe outside of Cal and Julio, but I think that's a different echelon, different piece. 137 WRC plus 19 stolen bases, 9 home runs, put up a 20-30 season overall this year. And he hit nearly 300 with the Mariners with 341 on base and a 490 slug, posting nearly 2 wins in a Mariners uniform, doing enough for the Mariners to give him a 5-year deal in free agency just a few months ago. Josh Naylor was everything a Mariner is and more. And to me, Mr. Mariner Josh Naylor gets the first-time Mariner Award for 2025. Next is going to be Trade of the Year Award. Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor, Caleb Ferguson are the 3 options. Caleb Ferguson, you can cross out. Give that an X. That's not happening. Eugenio Suarez. This, to me, was one of my favorite moments of the year. You'll hear about it later. But he didn't do a ton in a Mariners uniform. Well, back in a Mariners uniform. So to me, Josh Naylor, and Josh Naylor will win this award, was the best trade. And you can see why it paid off. We just talked about Josh Naylor doing everything he did in a Mariners uniform. And then you give him the fat contract, 5 years, $18.5 million per year. Josh Naylor doing everything you needed and more after the trade, and putting the Mariners really in position to win the AL West for the first time since 2001, first time in nearly a quarter century. Josh Naylor doing everything you needed and more after that trade. It is the trade of the year, and I think there's no question about it. So we're banking off that. We've got free agent signing of the year. We're going to put Josh Naylor in here again for that 5-year deal. Jorge Polanco will also be in there. And third will not win this award, but it is Donovan Solano. Mariners don't make a ton of free agent signings. But Josh Naylor, this re-signing is great, and Jorge Polanco paid a ton of dividends for the Mariners, and that's why he's going to win this award. Jorge Polanco gets himself back on the board, getting his second award of the day. Josh Naylor has 2. Jorge Polanco has 2 now, too. 2 guys battling it out for most awards, it does seem like. But Jorge Polanco, we talked about it earlier. The stuff he did in a Mariners uniform is truly, truly amazing. His 2025 season, another one that skyrocketed the Mariners to the LCS, to the division championship. And he wasn't a guy that many people wanted to re-sign. Let's just be frank. Did you want the Mariners to re-sign Jorge Polanco a year ago today? On December 30th, 2024, if I asked you if you wanted the Mariners to re-sign Jorge Polanco for the 2025 season, would you have said yes? I actually think I might have, but I think I'm in the minority in that. And I would have said there are better options out there. And there were better options out there. But of those better options, Polanco put up better numbers than really all of them, and probably all of them. Anyone that's in the Mariners' range of realistic sort of moves, Jorge Polanco exceeded all of them and more. And that's why he wins Best Free Agent Signing for the Mariners of 2025. Next up is the Rookie of the Year Awards. Now we get into some of these classic sort of awards. Rookie of the Year Award, Dom Canzone, still technically a rookie. Cole Young, Ben Williamson. Those are the 3 guys that debuted this year that, rookies that sort of were the best, let's say. There were some relievers, but you didn't have a whole lot. Cole Young doing a lot of stuff at the start of his tenure with the Mariners. Obviously falls off September down the stretch, loses his starting job. Jorge Polanco starts playing more second base. But nonetheless, a good rookie campaign for him. Ben Williamson showing off his glove. Good rookie campaign for him. If he can figure out that bat a little bit more, then he's a great piece to have. And he very likely, as of right now at least, would be your starting third baseman, and very likely will be on the roster on opening day. But Dom Canzone, we talked about it earlier. It's a lot of these same guys coming up again and again and again. But Dom Canzone, the stuff he did this year, how can he not win an award? And to me, Rookie of the Year is the award that he is going to get. So congrats to Dom Canzone, his first award. And he's up for nomination again in this next one. Bounce Back Player of the Year. We could probably guess who's going to win this, but nominees are J.P. Crawford. And let's talk about J.P. Crawford. We haven't talked about J.P. Crawford much, if at all, yet this episode. And I'm not the biggest fan of J.P. Crawford. But after an injured season in 2024, he played just 105 games. He came back, played 157 games this year, had a 113 WRC plus after posting a 90 last year, was worth nearly 3 wins. Was he a good defensive shortstop? No. But he still hit 12 home runs, still hit 265, 372, 370. 352, 370, pardon. Hit 24 doubles. Had 58 RBIs. And bounced back still above what his career norm really is. 2023 is the outlier season where he posted a 136 WRC plus and had a 5-win season. Outside of that, it's a lot of 105 WRC plus, 103 WRC plus, 95, 87, 95, 83, and 90. 113 is a good bounce back from that 90 WRC plus season and closer to that 136. Is it the 136 5-win season? No. But is he ever going to be able to replicate that? Also, no. So that's why J.P. Crawford is nominated for the Bounce Back Award. Already, we have talked about Jorge Polanco a lot. We have also talked about Dominic Canzone a lot. Those are the other 2 nominees. The winner of this award is Jorge Polanco, getting his now 3rd award of the show. Jorge Polanco in the lead with 3 wins this go around. Next is straying away from players, but commentator of the year, Aaron Goldsmith, Rick Riz, and our favorite hyphen, Ryan Rowland-Smith. Gotta love that guy. Doing everything he does in the booth. Him and Goldie are a really good team, I gotta say. But I think we all know who this award's going to. And it's not hyphen, unfortunately. It's his partner, Aaron Goldsmith, commentator of the year. You gotta love Goldie. Doing everything he does in the big moments. The way he is with the fans, he's interactive. I love watching some of those TikToks he does when he goes on podcasts, listening to him talk about his broadcast, and the stuff he does, his prep, all that type of stuff, and his sort of love now of the Mariners and of Seattle and of this organization and of this ballpark and this city and all of that. It's really awesome. He is a Mariner at this point. When you think of the Mariners, Aaron Goldsmith falls into that bucket. And he's commentator of the year for me, calling all those big moments. You remember the 60th home run for Cal Raleigh, him calling that moment, among so many of Cal's other home runs. The 40th, the 50th, the 59th, all of those home runs, all the record-breaking ones. And Aaron Goldsmith is your commentator of the year. Staying away from players is Song of the Year. There's only one option here. It's Mr. Rager, the song of the 2025 postseason for the Mariners. And what a great song it is, I gotta say. I got myself listening into that a lot during the postseason run. It's a good song. Gotta say, well done, Kid Cudi. Pitcher of the Year. Now we get into the big 3 awards. It's Pitcher of the Year, then Reliever of the Year, then Mariner of the Year. First off, Pitcher of the Year. The nominees are Gabe Spire. Really good season for him. He's another guy that could have probably been and maybe should have been in the bounce back candidates, but got beat out by 3 bats. Gabe Spire posting a really, really good season. 2.31 FIP, 2.61 ERA, reliever ERA we don't care a lot about, but 62 innings pitched in 76 games. Doing so much at the back end of this Mariners bullpen. He was so clutch. 24 holds, bouncing back after just 7 the year prior when he was not good, to say the least. whip back under 1 actually for the first time in his career with an 0.87 ERA. Again, the FIP was so good, 2.31, getting out lefties, doing everything he needed to do and more. As the Mariners' 7th and 8th inning guys, especially against lefties, Gabe Spire. What a damn season for him. Next guy is Andres Munoz. It's the closer. We had to have 2 bullpen arms in here. I didn't think that 2 starters really were deserving of it this year. But Andres Munoz is the other guy. You know so much about Andres Munoz. This guy is so good. 38 saves for the Mariners, the most of his career. Came in 2025. Posted the best ERA, reliever ERA of his career. We don't care so much. With barely over 1. So good. Gave up just 0.29 home runs per 9. Just 2 home runs the entire season. The guy was dominant. Just 7 blown saves. Guy was so damn good back there. And the third nominee is Bryan Woo. Starting pitcher, ERA under 3, FIP about 3.5, 3.5 F4, 186 and 2/3 innings. This guy was so good. 30 starts, 30 games. Went 15-7. Dude was so good. Like I said, whip under 1. This was your ace of your staff in 2025. He was your best starter. And he was a guy that really brought this team through the most of the season, especially pitching-wise. He was the consistent guy that was consistently good. What was it? However many starts in a row of 6+ innings? I think something like that. Dude was unbelievable. If he stays healthy in 2026, you could see another really damn good season for Bryan Woo. He just seems to be taking step after step after step through every year of his career. Farther he gets away from those Tommy John surgeries when he was in college, the better you feel about him. Dealt with a little bit of injury at the end of the season. In the postseason, he missed most of the postseason. But the regular season was, so good. And for that reason, Bryan Woo will win Pitcher of the Year in 2025. Reliever of the Year, it's those 2 same relievers, but also Matt Brash, who came back and was really solid. Those are your 3 best relievers. We'll also say Edward Bizarro, really good season from him. He went unmentioned in this awards show, but damn good season from him. He was lights out and was more than you could have ever dreamed him of being in 2025. So hats off to him. But Matt Brash is the third guy that's going to get the nominee other than Munoz and Spire. 2.47 reliever ERA, 47 and a third innings, nearly 30% strikeout rate, a FIP just barely over 3, the whip of 1 1/4. Guy was so good. But how can it not go to the closer? It's Andres Munoz. He gets reliever of the year. We got one final award, and it's Mariner of the Year, and I think we all know who's winning it. The nominees are Big Dumper, Bryan Woo, and Julio Rodriguez, who has not been talked about enough for his 2025 bounce-back season. Put up 5.7 wins, tied for second most in his career, tied with his rookie year. Hit 32 home runs, which is tied for most of his career. Hit 267, 324, 474 with a 126 WRC plus, which ranks 3rd in his career. It's a good bounce back from that 116 WRC plus that he had in 2024. Elite defensively. Didn't steal as many bases as he did in 2023, but stole more than 24, where he went 30-30 this year. And went 25-25 for the 3rd time in his young career, and has gone 20-20 in every year of his career. Julio Rodriguez is a damn good player. A damn good player. 21.2 F4 throughout his first 4 seasons as a player. We could see a huge 2026 from him, and I'd love for him to get this award next year. But he's not going to win it. It has to go to the 60 home run catcher, Big Dumper, the best nickname in baseball. Cal Raleigh gets his name on the list. Mariner of the Year goes to Big Dumper. Moving on. Let's talk moments. I talked about it earlier. Baseball fans, sports fans, there are moments where you remember exactly where you were. We have 14 moments that I want to talk about. There are only 5 spots. We're going to have a starting rotation of moments from 2025 that I think are the best. We're going to start with our honorable mentions, and in no particular order. The first one I want to talk about is the Ichiro Hall of Fame induction. Third Mariner to be in the Hall of Fame, inducted as a Mariner. Obviously, Randy Johnson is in there, among a few others. I was there in Cooperstown. Really, really cool. An amazing speech. And it was just a capper of what had been an amazing summer already. You know, you'd seen Cal Raleigh win the Derby. You'd seen your guys playing the All-Star game. Trade deadline was around the corner. Josh Naylor had already been traded for. And it's a moment away from, the current team that was really special and really cool. And it's not every day you see a player from your team go into the Hall of Fame, and let alone your favorite player as a child. So Ichiro, I think, had to be on here. Next honorable mention is Cal winning the Derby. I just mentioned it. Great moment, I gotta say. Didn't expect him to do it. Did the unexpected, wins the Derby, becomes the second Mariner ever to do so, becomes the first catcher to do so, and first switch hitting catcher, I'm sure, to do so. So Cal Raleigh winning the Derby was really awesome. Has his dad throwing to him, his brother behind the plate catching. This year felt so magical as a Mariners fan, and I think those two moments are off the field moments, kind of off the field moments at least, that sort of just encapsulate what was such an amazing year on and off the field, to be a Mariners fan. Winning the Derby, getting a guy going to the Hall of Fame. And then you trade for a guy that was a fan favorite, Eugenio Suarez, comes back. He was the top bat on the free agent market, 30-something home runs. And it was the capper of 3 weeks that were just, 2 or 3 weeks that were just amazing. Josh Naylor gets traded, Ichiro goes into the Hall of Fame, and then you get the Geno trade, and it's like, man, everything seems to be going right now in Mariners land. And the scenes in the first game after the deadline, especially the first home game after the deadline, after he'd been traded for off day Thursday. I think the deadline was Thursday. He comes in Friday. I'm at that game, and oh my God, was it awesome. People were pumped, and it was like, we're going for it. Let's go win the whole damn thing. Obviously it didn't happen for a few months, but let's go win the whole effing thing. Big Dumper, and just the whole next couple months, really, other than the 2-week stretch where they sucked, were so magical. Capped off with the postseason, but other honorable mentions from this period: Cal's 60th home run in the game where you win the division. He hits 2 home runs, including his 60th. First pitch, crowds chanting MVP. You have the J.P. Crawford walk-off against the Texas Rangers. Leo Rivas walk-off in extra innings against the St. Louis Cardinals. And then a moment I remember so well is J.P. Crawford's grand slam in second or third inning against the Houston Astros. Sunday Night Baseball, just demolishes it, and it's like, we've swept the Houston Astros, we've beat the big bad Astros. And just such amazing moments. All of those moments are. Those are my honorable mentions. None of those made the top 5 for me, the starting rotation. But amazing moments. And this year's packed with amazing moments. There are moments that I'm sure I forgot of that should have been on this list or at least in the honorable mentions. But all of these moments are just such special, for wanting to not use moments over and over again, but special, times and I guess moments. But I don't want to say that over and over again. And it's just, 2025 was such a great year for the Mariners. And I've said it already, but all these moments, so special. As we get into the starting rotation, the 5 starter was the night that Cal Raleigh hit that 60th home run. It was the night they won the division for the first time since 2001. And it was over in the first inning. Jumped all over the Rockies starter. It was the night after they clinched the postseason in dramatic fashion with the Josh Naylor double, which what a moment that was, by the way. Luke Jackson closing the game out, Cal Raleigh hitting 2 home runs, including his 60th. The crowd just loving it, and it's back-to-back nights of it's just a party, and this one was a party for 9 innings. And it was just waiting for the game to be over, and winning the division for the first time was such a cool feeling. And the party scenes after, and I'm sitting there in my dorm room at college, and I'm just like, this is what it's all about, man. This is what it's all about. Our 4 starter came about 4 or 5 days prior. Houston Astros series. We mentioned JP's salami, breaking out the rye bread and mustard. But guy that hasn't been mentioned at all is Victor Robles. And his moment came in a game against Houston to end the game. Diving Superman catch out of nowhere. To rob what likely would have been, I think, at least a game-tying bloop single for Carlos Correa. They double off the guy at second. I think it was Jake Myers. And the game's over. The Mariners, I think this was game 2, so I think they won the series then. And it was over. And it was like, we have conquered. And I talked about that feeling sort of in the JP Grand Slam. But this was like, we won the series. We did what we needed to do. And it came in this crazy moment. And I was working a football game at school, and I have it just like on my phone, on my sheet, on my like clipboard. And I'm like, what in the world just happened? And that had to be on the list because it's a top moment. It's in the intro video for this podcast. And it truly is so freaking special. Our 3 starter, we mentioned it already. The night before, our 5 starter went to work, but it's Josh Naylor. He had to have a moment. He had his biggest moment against Colorado Rockies. 8th inning, comes up clutch. Go ahead, bases clearing double to the left center gap. I can see that ball falling into the left center gap and trickling to the wall. And Josh Naylor, pounding his fist in joy, and the crowd and myself reacting shocked because it felt like that game was over. I remember that night. And that's one of those moments I talked about. There are moments you will never forget where you were, what you were doing. And a lot of these are like that. But for me, these next 3, especially these next 3, are like that more than any of the rest of them. And the whole run started with that double. It was like, we're going. Postseason, division is basically all assured. And let's go get it, And to get into the postseason, Mariners get to game 5 of the LDS against the Detroit Tigers. They're at home. And in the 15th inning, our number 2 moment happens. The guy that won the most awards tonight, Jorge Polanco, has his moment. Single through the right side, drives in the runner from third, 15th inning, walk off to eliminate the Detroit Tigers, send the Mariners to the American League Championship for the first time since 2001. I have my video of my reaction. This one wasn't tears as much as the Naylor double or this next one was. There were tears in both those other two. This one was just elation, just joy, shock, and gratefulness to be a Mariners fan and for this game to be over. Because it was long. It was long, y'all. But it was over. They were through. Polanco had his Mariner defining moment. I think this could have been the number one moment. I think for some people, other people, I'm sure this would be the number one moment. But for me, this next moment just eclipsed it. And it would have eclipsed it even more had the Mariners been able to pull out Game 7. But Game 5 of the ALCS, Mariners are down a run. Heading into, I think, the bottom of the 8th inning. Cal Raleigh leads off. This is an honorable mention now. Cal Raleigh leads off with a homer into Edgars. Ties the game. The Mariners then load the bases. No outs, and it's Gino Suarez at the plate, and I'm like, he's going to fucking strike out. Pardon my French. He's going to strike out. And he gets to, I think it was a full count. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was a full count. This is all just pure recollection. And he sends a fly ball to right field, and I'm like, sack fly, take the lead, sack fly. And it just kept going. And as it keeps going, I'm up off my couch bed thing, and I am just jumping, and I'm like, go ball. And as that ball hit the seats, grand slam, 4-run lead, I remember I can like physically feel myself just falling to the floor and just weeping. Because that moment, other than like winning the World Series or going to the World Series, I think that moment for me, at least as a Mariners fan, will be really hard to pass. Just the flippin' emotions, and this is part of why baseball is so beautiful, the flippin' emotions to go from, oh man, we're going to lose all 3 at home, to, oh shoot, we're going to go back to Toronto needing one more win in 2 games to go to our first World Series. We did it with Chino, good vibes only, a grand slam. The crowd is beast quaking, and it's like, just what a moment. And if not for the external factors of the 95 run, refuse to lose, and the Edgar double down the left field line, that is just probably the best moment in Mariners history. If not for the external facts of that without that moment, the Mariners might not still exist. This is the greatest moment in Mariners history, in my opinion. And it's overlooked because they didn't make it all the way to the promised land, to the World Series, win an AL pennant. But it doesn't really matter to me. And that's going to sound stupid, but it doesn't matter. That moment was unreal. The joy and emotions in that moment. Like, if I could relive, I think, one moment of the 2025 season as a Mariners fan, it's that moment. It's that moment. Over the Polanco single, it's that moment. And I wish I had a video of my reaction in that moment, because, I was a mess. But I think that has to be the moment that encapsulates 2025 for me. And it's almost like the Mariners, not going to the World Series almost makes it all the better. Because that was the moment of 2025. That's like, the moments I'm going to remember especially are those top 4. But the ace is that Gino Grand Slam, and I'm going to remember that. Probably more than anything. I think that and the Polanco I'll remember forever, and maybe the Josh Naylor double. But those 2 moments, and especially the Gino Grand Slam, I will remember forever. Finally, moving on to our very last thing is the biggest question, leaving 2025 and entering 2026. 2025 was an unbelievable year. The questions I have are, is it the greatest year and season in Mariners history? And that can be separate questions. Greatest year, greatest season, separate questions. And the biggest question entering 2026 is, will the Seattle Mariners be able to replicate some of the magic and get back to a division title in the postseason in 2026? Can you replicate what 2025 was in some sense? Are the expectation and the pressure that now have built, as they did after 2022, are they going to be too much again? Can you go postseason back-to-back years? Can you win the division back-to-back years? Was the last time the Mariners done that? Have they only done that once, 2000 and 2001? Like, it's time for them to go to back-to-back postseasons and to win back-to-back division titles. Can they do that in 2026? They still need some pieces, I'll tell you that much, to be super uber competitive. Are they good enough to be a postseason team right now? Probably. Are they good enough to win the division? Possibly. But you need more. And the biggest question is, can you replicate that? Or is that magic just going to extinguish itself like it did after 22, after 23, where it was extinguished heading into the end of 24, where you missed the postseason now 2 straight years after breaking the drought? My opinion is, I think they can replicate some of it. Can you replicate all of it? No, I don't think so, because this year was, in my opinion, the greatest year in Mariners history. And just by the raw facts, it's the greatest season in Mariners history. It's the farthest they've ever made it. Closest they've ever been. They didn't make it in the end, but they were oh so close. And that's going to close 2025 for the show. We rebranded. We posted a lot of damn episodes, made it over 100 episodes, lived through, in my opinion, the greatest year of Mariners baseball. Cheers to 2026. Till next year, signing off. Peace out and go M's. It's Mahal. Go M's, y'all.